The hostess held the clipboard like a shield, her manicured finger tracing down the list of names for the third time. Behind her, the heavy oak doors of the country club were slightly ajar, letting out the sound of a string quartet tuning up and the low hum of expensive laughter. I stood there in my tuxedo, the one my brother insisted I wear to match the groomsmen, feeling a cold knot tighten in my stomach. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her voice dripping with that polite customer service pity that actually feels like a slap. "I've checked under Michael, Mike, and even your last name. You simply aren't on the guest list." I looked at her, then past her shoulder. Through the gap in the doors, I could see my parents standing near the ice sculpture. My mother was adjusting my brother's tie, her face glowing with a pride I hadn't seen directed at me in years. My brother, David, threw his head back and laughed at something my father said. They looked perfect, complete. A portrait of a happy family that had apparently decided to crop me out at the last second. "There must be a mistake," I said, though deep down I knew there wasn't. "I'm the groom's brother. I paid the deposit for this venue." The hostess winced, clutching the clipboard tighter to her chest. "I understand, sir, but Mr. David specifically updated the list this morning. He was very strict about security. No one-off list is allowed inside. Management's orders." She looked at two security guards standing a few feet away, their eyes already locked on me, waiting for a reason to step in. A scene. That's what they expected. They expected the scorned brother to scream, to demand entry, to ruin the aesthetic of the perfect day. My hand twitched by my side. The urge to storm past her and confront David was violent, a sudden rush of adrenaline that made my ears ring. But then, I remembered the conversation from last week, the way David had dismissed my concerns about the catering budget, telling me to just handle it, because that's what big brothers are for. I remembered the wire transfer I had sent on Tuesday. And suddenly, the anger cooled into something freezing and sharp. "Okay," I said. The hostess blinked, surprised. "Okay? Yes. If I'm not on the list, I shouldn't be here. Have a lovely evening." I turned around before she could respond. I didn't look at the guards. I didn't look back at the open doors or my laughing family. I walked straight to the valet, handed him my ticket, and waited for my car. I didn't send a text. I didn't call my mom. I just drove away into the silence of the afternoon, leaving the venue behind. I knew something they didn't. I knew that the mistake of removing my name was about to become the most expensive clerical error of David's life. The drive back to my apartment was dangerously quiet. Usually my phone would be buzzing with last-minute demands. Mom asking where the boutonnieres were, David panicking about the photographer, my dad needing help with his speech. But today, silence. It confirmed everything. They hadn't forgotten me. They were avoiding me. They were hoping I'd just disappear so they wouldn't have to deal with the awkward reality of what they had done. I tossed my tuxedo jacket onto the couch and sat at my kitchen island, staring at the black screen of my phone. It's funny how clarity hits you. It doesn't come in a wave. It comes like a camera lens snapping into focus. For years, I had been the family fixer, the ATM, the safety net. When David dropped out of college, I paid his rent so he wouldn't lose his independence. When my parents' retirement fund took a hit, I covered their property taxes quietly so they wouldn't feel embarrassed. And for this wedding, this wedding, David and his fiancée, Jessica, wanted a fairy tale. They wanted the grand estate, the 5-course meal, the open bar with top-shelf liquor. But David works in entry-level sales, and Jessica is a freelance influencer with 300 followers. The math didn't add up. So, who stepped in? I did. I put down the $15,000 deposit for the venue. I signed the contract for the catering. I even gave them my credit card to keep on file for the incidentals and the final balance, which was due to be run exactly when the reception dinner began. I opened my banking app. There it was, pending in the scheduled transactions. A charge for another $28,000 set to process at 6 p.m. That was the remaining cost of the venue, the food, and the open bar. David had removed me from the guest list, probably thinking the bill was already settled. Or maybe he just didn't care. He figured I'd be too passive to do anything about it. He thought I was a pushover because I loved them. I looked at the clock. It was 4:30 p.m. The ceremony was over. They were probably taking photos now, sipping champagne I paid for, laughing about how they dodged the bullet of having the boring brother there to ruin the vibe. I took a deep breath. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply tapped the card services tab on my screen. I selected the credit card that was on file with the venue. My finger hovered over the Report Lost Stolen button, It was the nuclear option. It would immediately freeze the account. Any transaction attempted after this second would decline hard. Have you ever realized your kindness was actually just being used as a doormat? I pressed the button. Card deactivated. The first hour passed with agonizing slowness. I made myself a sandwich. I changed out of the tuxedo pants into sweatpants. I watched a documentary about deep-sea creatures. Anything to keep my mind off the ticking clock. 5 p.m. came and went. 5:30 p.m. At the wedding, the guests would be moving into the grand ballroom right about now. The servers would be pouring the first round of wine. The venue manager would be heading to the back office to run the final payment before the main course was served. At 6:15 p.m., my phone lit up. It wasn't a text. It was a call from a number I didn't have saved, but the area code was local. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. I ignored it. Then, a text message popped up on the screen. Mr. Miller, this is Sarah from the Gilded Oak Estate. We're having trouble processing the card on file for the final balance. Please call us immediately. I took a bite of my sandwich and didn't reply. 10 minutes later, the family group chat, which had been silent all day, suddenly sprang to life. Mom. Michael, where are you? Mom. Pick up the phone right now. David. Mike, are you serious? Pick up. Dad. This isn't funny, son. Call us. I put the phone face down. I wasn't doing this. Not yet. I needed them to sweat. I needed them to feel a fraction of the humiliation I felt standing at that door while the security guards looked at me like a trespasser. At 6:45 p.m., the venue manager called again. This time I answered. Hello? I said, my voice calm, casual, like I was just waking up from a nap. Mr. Miller, thank goodness. The woman sounded breathless, panicked. We have been trying to reach you. The transaction for the remaining balance of $28,400 has been declined. The bank says the card is invalid. Oh, yes, I said smoothly. I canceled that card this afternoon. I noticed some suspicious activity, so I shut it down to be safe. There was a heavy pause on the other end. Sir, the wedding reception is underway. The contract states full payment is due before dinner service. We've already served the salads. If we don't get payment in the next 10 minutes, we are legally required to pause service. I understand, I said, but I'm not at the wedding. I wasn't on the guest list, remember? Security wouldn't let me in. So I assumed my financial obligations were also removed from the list. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I could hear the background noise of the venue, the clinking of silverware, the murmur of hundreds of people. Sir, the manager's voice dropped an octave, losing its professional sheen. Are you saying you are refusing to pay? I'm saying I'm not there, I repeated, leaning back in my chair. I'm at home. You should probably ask the groom for a card. It's his wedding after all. The groom is currently at the head table, she hissed. This is highly irregular. If payment isn't rendered, we have to stop the bar. We have to stop the kitchen. That sounds like a logistical issue, I said. Good luck, Sarah. I hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone didn't just ring. It vibrated so hard against the table it nearly fell off. It was David. I stared at the screen, watching his name flash. David calling. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. Finally, I picked up. What the hell is wrong with you? David screamed. He wasn't whispering. He was shouting, and I could hear the echo of the ballroom behind him. He must have stepped out into the hallway, or maybe he was screaming right there in front of the guests. Hello to you too, David. Congrats on the big day. Don't give me that. The manager just came up to the head table. She told me the card declined. They stopped the waiters, Mike. They literally stopped them with trays of filet mignon halfway to the tables. People are staring. That sounds embarrassing, I said. Embarrassing? It's a disaster. Give me the new card number, now. No. What did you say? I said no. You kicked me out, David. You stood there laughing while your bouncers turned me away. You made it very clear I wasn't welcome. Why would I pay for a party I'm not allowed to attend? It was a mistake, he yelled, his voice cracking. It was just a mix-up with the seating chart. Jessica messed up the Excel sheet. We didn't mean to kick you out. We ran out of chairs at the main tables and didn't know where to put you. We were going to fix it. You ran out of chairs? I asked, my voice flat. I paid 15 grand for that venue, David. And you couldn't find a chair for me? It's complicated, David shrieked. Look, just give me the card number and we can talk about this tomorrow. Jessica is crying in the bathroom. Her dad is freaking out. You're ruining everything. I'm not ruining anything, I said. I'm just matching your energy. You wanted a wedding without me? You got it. You can pay for it. I don't have $28,000, he sobbed. It was a pathetic sound. The sound of a man who had never faced a consequence in his entire life realizing the safety net was gone. Then I guess you better start asking the guests for donations. Or ask Dad. He seemed pretty proud of you earlier. I hung up and turned my phone on, Do Not Disturb. But the notifications still flooded the lock screen. Texts from my cousins. Mike, is it true? The bar just closed. They turned the lights up. Dude, Aunt Linda is saying you stole the wedding money. What is going on? I poured myself a glass of water and walked to the window. I tried to imagine the scene, the bright house lights turning on, killing the mood, the servers retreating into the kitchen with the steaks, the sudden silence as the DJ was told to cut the music because the check bounced. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the audacity. Have you ever watched someone panic because they lost the control they thought they had over you? It's a dark satisfaction. I knew exactly what was happening. My parents were likely cornering the manager, trying to use their name and status to bully her into continuing service. But corporate venues don't care about status. They care about the credit authorization code. An hour later, there was a pounding on my apartment door. I didn't jump. I expected this. I walked over and checked the peephole. It wasn't David. He was still held hostage by the bill. It was my father. His face was red, his tie loosened, his eyes wild. I opened the door. He didn't say hello. He pushed his way inside, bringing the smell of stale cologne and panic with him. Fix this, he growled, pointing a finger in my face. Call them right now and fix this. Get out of my house, I said calmly. My father stopped, stunned. I had never spoken to him like that. I was the obedient son, the quiet one. Excuse me? He sputtered. I said get out. Unless you're here to apologize for letting your son be humiliated at the door, I have nothing to say to you. Apologize? He laughed, a harsh, barking sound. You abandoned your brother. You left him stranded at the altar, basically. You petty, selfish... I wasn't on the list, Dad, I yelled, finally breaking my calm. David scrubbed my name, and don't give me that clerical error garbage. The hostess told me he updated it this morning. Specifically, he wanted me to pay for the show but stay backstage. My father's face twitched. He knew. He absolutely knew. It wasn't like that. He muttered, looking away. Jessica. She has this ex-boyfriend. He's some big-shot producer. She wanted to invite him to impress him, maybe get some connections for her brand, but he wouldn't come if there wasn't a seat at the head table. And we were maxed out. So you cut me. I finished the sentence for him. You cut your brother, the guy paying for the filet mignon, to make room for the bride's ex-boyfriend? The silence in the room was heavy enough to crush bones. It was just for dinner, my father pleaded, his voice losing its edge. We were going to let you in for the dancing. We thought you wouldn't mind sitting out the meal. You're always so low maintenance. Low maintenance. The words hung in the air. That was their code for exploitable. The wedding is over, Dad, I said. Whatever is happening there now, the debt, the embarrassment, the guests leaving early, that's on you. And David. And Jessica. They're going to sue him, my father whispered. The venue. If they don't get paid tonight, they'll sue for breach of contract. It'll bankrupt him. Then he better start selling those wedding gifts, I said, walking to the door and holding it open. My father left, looking 10 years older than he had when he walked in. He didn't slam the door. He closed it softly, like he was afraid of breaking anything else. I didn't sleep well that night, but not because of guilt. It was the adrenaline. My phone continued to accumulate messages. The narrative had already started shifting. My aunt posted on Facebook about how some family members care more about money than love. Jessica posted a black screen on her Instagram story with a broken heart emoji, captioning it, "Betrayed by those closest to us." They were spinning it. They were trying to make me the villain. But I had receipts. Literally. The next morning, I sat down at my computer. I didn't engage in the Facebook comments. I didn't reply to the angry texts. I drafted a single email to my parents and David. Attached was a PDF. It contained the venue contract I had signed, highlighting the clause about payment schedules. It included a screenshot of the bank transfer for the deposit I had already paid. And most importantly, it included a screenshot of the text message David had sent me 3 months ago. Bro, you're the best. I promise once the wedding is over, I'll pay you back every cent from the bonus I'm getting. I wrote, since I was not a guest, I am no longer a sponsor. The $15,000 deposit is a loss I'm willing to eat to learn this lesson, but the remaining balance is yours. Do not contact me for money again. Do not ask me to cover rent. Do not ask me to co-sign a loan. If you try to blame me publicly, I will release the emails where you discuss cutting me from the list to make room for Jessica's ex. I hit send. Have you ever checked your bank account and realized how rich you actually are when you stop funding ungrateful people? It's not just about the numbers. It's the feeling of weight lifting off your chest. David didn't reply to the email, but 2 days later, I heard through a cousin that his in-laws had to drain their emergency savings to pay the venue and avoid a lawsuit. The honeymoon to the Maldives was canceled. They went to a motel in Jersey instead. It's been 3 months since the wedding that wasn't. The silence from my family has been absolute. But this time, it's not because they're ignoring me. It's because they're afraid of me. They realize that without my wallet, their lifestyle collapses. I heard Jessica and David are already having marital problems. Apparently, starting your life together with a massive debt and a public humiliation isn't the best foundation. My mom tries to call occasionally, leaving weeping voicemails about family unity, but she never mentions the money or the apology I deserve. So I don't call back. I took the money I would have spent on their wedding bailout and booked a trip for myself. Italy, solo. No list, no seating charts, just me and my own choices. I realized something standing in that airport terminal. You can't force people to respect you, but you can force them to live without you. And usually that's a much harsher punishment. If you've ever had to walk away from people who only loved you for what you could provide, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's hard, but the peace on the other side is worth every penny. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more.